we believe 33% of the climbs up and down communication towers can be eliminated due to the use of drone technology. And think about that. That's a third of all climbs.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 119. Ever wonder how drones are used in the cell tower industry? Well, you're going to love what today's guest has to share. Todd Schlekeway is the Executive Director of the National Association of Tower Erectors, or NATE for short. NATE is a nonprofit trade association providing a unified voice for tower erection, maintenance, and service companies, and is comprised of approximately 780 member companies. With drones being used to inspect towers, you can bet that NATE members are keenly interested in where the drone industry is headed. Todd is here to talk about NATE, the tower industry in general, and how drones are used to improve safety and efficiency across the board. Interdrone 2017 will be held in Las Vegas from September 6th through the 8th. This is the largest fully dedicated commercial drone event of the year, so make plans to attend now. Todd will be moderating a session at this event, and he'll tell us about that later on in this interview. Receive $100 off the cost when you use the discount code RADIO. Go to interdrone.com for details and to register for this exciting event. If you like the Drone Radio Show and you want to do a good thing, consider donating to my funding campaign on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production and expand its offerings. You can join this effort and get some really cool stuff by going to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. Now let's learn more about drones in the cell tower industry with Todd Schlekeway. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Todd to introduce himself.
My name is Todd Schlekeway. I serve as the Executive Director of NATE, the National Association of Tower Erectors. NATE has approximately 825 member companies that are involved in wireless infrastructure at some level. And our members build, maintain, deploy all of the communication towers and related wireless infrastructure in the United States. So it's a pretty exciting and dynamic time to be in the industry.
Todd, how long has NATE been around?
NATE, Randy, was founded in 1995, so we are 22 years old and have experienced a lot of growth in those first couple decades and had a lot of accomplishments along the way as well.
I would imagine that cell phone towers are included in that inventory.
Yes, our members primarily work to build, maintain, and deploy cell towers, and then broadcast structures, and then other infrastructure, that they place antennas on water towers and utility structures. Now they're going on light poles and street furniture, but cell towers would definitely be the forte of our membership.
I'm curious, did NATE arise primarily because of the growth in cell towers?
At that time, the demand continued for connectivity everywhere. And the interesting story about NATE, and one that we can get into a little bit later, is, we're an organization founded on safety standards and education. And we were founded after a fatality that one of our founders had experienced with a company in the southeast part of the country. And this was a fall from a communication tower. And so that was really one of the driving forces that got this innovative group of, I think, 66 initial small business owners who owned contractor companies around the country in the communication tower industry together to form NATE. And here we are today, 22 years later, and it's been kind of a fun evolution.
Hearing you say that, it helps me understand the full membership of NATE. It's not just cell tower owners. It also includes the companies that maintain towers and the service providers. Is that right?
That is correct, Randy. We have a very diverse membership base, and the wireless industry is very layered with different layers of infrastructure chain. So our membership consists of the contractor companies who are on the ground and employing the elevated tower techs who work on these structures every day. The companies that own the towers are a different set of companies primarily. There's several large companies in the United States that are publicly traded organizations that own over 40,000 structures. So that's another layer that are members. And then, of course, you have the carriers, the Verizons, the AT&Ts, T-Mobile, Sprints, US Cellulars, and all the regional carriers that depend on this infrastructure for their networks and connectivity. And so they're members. And then we also have equipment manufacturers, distributors, public safety entities, training providers, and our newest membership category is technology members. And so due to the prominent role drones play in our industry and our interest in drones, we're seeing quite a few UAS service providers join the ranks of our membership as well.
Well, that's a great segue into the next series of questions. Can you tell us how drones fit into the overall tower industry and how NATE is involved?
When I have the opportunity to speak on this topic, I always connect the dots. And I really believe if ever there's an industry tailor-made for the enhancement of commercial utilization of drones, it's our industry. It's the communication tower industry. So NATE has been really proactive in this space for quite some time. A couple of years ago, we started a Unmanned Aerial Systems Committee, and we have representatives from AT&T and Verizon Wireless on that committee. We have representatives from service provider companies like Centera and Measure on that committee. We have contractor company owners on that committee who also happen to be licensed pilots. So it's a very well-rounded committee, and we've had a success developing a safety resource that's already on its second edition called the NATE UAS Operations around Vertical Communications Infrastructure. So that committee's been very successful in developing best practice resources for our industry. And also, we unveiled a video earlier this year that got a lot of exposure online and through social media platforms. And we also interface at least quarterly with the FAA as well with the committee. So we're very excited about the potential of drones. Along with that, NATE is an active member of the Commercial Drone Alliance. We're right up there with CNN, Ford Motor Company, and all the other organizations that are a part of that effort. We have really been involved with what the Commercial Drone Alliance is doing, particularly when it comes to federal legislative and regulatory policy and moving the ball downfield to get a little bit more flexibility in what we can do as commercial operators to continue to expand the use cases in our industry and I guess other industries that use this technology.
Has your committee developed its top priorities in regard to drone use?
We've had those discussions not only with our UAS committee, but with the Commercial Drone Alliance. Part 107 was really good to our industry because, the typical cell tower is anywhere from 100 feet to 300 feet. And then you start getting into massive broadcast towers, which can go as high as 2,000 feet. So 107 was nice because, you can go above a structure. And so we were very happy with what 107 contained. We are advocates of more flexibility and leeway when it comes to beyond visual line of sight, because let me give you an example. The FCC just finished earlier this year with a historic incentive auction where they purchased valuable spectrum from the broadcasters and they turned around and sold it to the wireless carriers. And so that spectrum is like beachfront property for the carriers. And the reason I'm explaining this to you like this is as a result of this auction, there is an immense amount of work that will take place on these 1,000 to 2,000 foot broadcast towers over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. And, we think that the UAS technology is going to play a role in that and making sure that that work is done safely and efficiently. And it would be nice to have a little bit more leeway and flexibility with the regulatory community when it comes to beyond visual line of sight. So that would be one example that we are very supportive of. We also think, due to where they are now installing this equipment, they're putting antennas in dense areas, in very urban environments, on streetlights, rooftops, you name it. We also think that some flexibility when it comes to flying over people as well, Randy, would help our industry. So we certainly are not unlike any other industry where we have our wish list as well.
What's the outlook for new tower construction?
The one nice thing about our industry, Randy, is due to the insatiable appetite for data and this demand for watching Netflix and YouTube in the palm of your hands on a smartphone or tablet, our industry is very economically sound and there's a lot of demand. But as a result of that, you have to have the infrastructure in the form of towers and the backhaul in the form of fiber built to accommodate this year-over-year explosive growth in data demand. So as we look out and project into the future, a very, very busy time in new tower builds, in addition to the traditional densification of the networks and the updates that need to take place to make sure that communication structures are able to accommodate the increased equipment on the towers that comes with each generation of technology upgrades. So yeah, we're very excited about what the future holds there.
As a city planner, I like learning about how things are designed, especially within the urban environment. When designing new towers, are there any special considerations to make them more easily inspected by drones?
That's a great question, Randy. I can tell you that a lot of municipalities in this country, especially when they're of a certain size, they certainly mandate in their ordinances stipulations on what a tower might look like or how tall a tower can be. Stealth tower builds in the form of flagpoles, pine trees, if you get into the Southwest, cactuses, church steeples. The average citizen driving down the street or the freeway or walking down the sidewalk has no idea there may be a tower that's just totally developed and built as a stealth build because it was either mandated by the local jurisdiction or that's the way it's going. So that would be an example of the design that we're seeing. But as far as designing them specific for drone inspection, I have not heard of that particular area yet being developed.
If a company isn't using drones, what's the process for servicing their towers?
Great question. I get this a lot. I think it's important for your listeners, Randy, and anyone who may be attending Interdrone and interested in this amazing technology. There is a tremendous amount of work that goes into building and maintaining America's communication infrastructure. And the men and women who do this deserve a lot of our gratitude because it is not easy work. I mean, these men and women are working at any heights you can imagine, 100 feet to 2,000 feet in the air. And on traditional cell towers, I mean, there's a safety climb system installed on these towers, but they have their harness and their personal fall arrest systems. They're tied off to it and they climb up and down. And it's not uncommon that on a typical day, they are going up and down a tower, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. And so think about that in the context of the repetitive stress that's associated with that, the safety issues when you're working at height, not only climbing, but, they're doing very sophisticated work when it comes to the technical skills that they need to know, to assess the RF on an antenna or to install an antenna and repair and upgrade a structure, a part of the tower, or, replace an antenna mount. I mean, these are very sophisticated skills, and they're doing them 100 to 500 feet to 2,000 feet in the air. So if you think about that, and then you put it in the big picture context of why drone technology is and will continue to be a big opportunity for our industry, you can kind of get a glimpse of why Nate is so invested in drones. We believe we have a lot of sharp minds on our UAS committee who are in this space every day. And they have estimated conservatively, Randy, that we believe 33% of the climbs up and down communication towers can be eliminated due to the use of drone technology. And think about that. That's a third of all climbs. And sometimes it becomes cliche to talk about that's life-saving or that's life or death. But we can literally make that claim in our industry that this technology is enhancing safety and mitigating risk. And so that's why Nate is so passionate about drone utilization in our industry.
That's pretty significant. And the 33% that you mentioned, that's primarily climbs to inspect a tower?
Yes, that would be correct. There's a lot of work that goes on a tower when it comes to performing inspections. If you're doing work for one of the wireless carriers, say Verizon or AT&T, you have to document in the form of closeout packages via photo and video that you perform your scope of work. And that's why there's so much ascending and descending of a tower every day. But those are examples of what are use cases that the drones can replace. Now, Nate is always, and when I speak, I always make sure to emphasize this, we believe drones are an incredible tool and a valuable asset. We are not advocating, nor do we believe they are a replacement for the sophisticated skills of the workforce in our industry, but they are an incredible asset. And it's amazing the use cases that we're seeing that continue to expand in this industry.
Now, when it comes to cell tower inspections, what do you feel is important for drone operators to consider?
That's a great question, Randy. RF exposure is a huge issue. Some of these antennas, especially you get up on the broadcast towers, these are very powerful and they emit a lot of RF. So any operator needs to have a working knowledge of where you're flying around your drone when it comes to a communication tower. The basic parts of a tower, a lot of the towers, especially the taller ones, are guide towers. So they have the guide wires that are balancing it that go out, so that's an operational risk. You have to know how to navigate and operate a drone around all these guide towers, these guide wires that are out there supporting the tower. And so, it's an interesting industry. It's not, you're not dealing with a water tower. You're not dealing with a wind turbine. You're dealing with cell towers, and they come in different shapes and sizes, and you have to kind of have a working knowledge of the tower site environment when you're operating it. So that's what I would say in regards to that.
Yeah, it's not like somebody can just go out and get a drone and say, I want to do cell tower inspections, put up a sign on their truck, and expect business to just happen.
Exactly.
So you're going to be at Interdrone in September. What will you be talking about?
Yeah, we're excited that for the second year, Nate will have a prominent presence at Interdrone, Randy. And this year, Nate has assembled a panel that I will be participating in as a moderator. But we are going to showcase all of the innovation that's going on in wireless when it comes to drone use cases. And, everyone thinks immediately of inspection, and we're going to talk about inspections, but we're going to do a deep dive in innovation. And we have an incredible panel that will be a part of that. Art Pregler from AT&T is the most prominent drone contact within their organization in the United States. He's going to be on the panel. We've got Robert McCoy from Crown Castle USA. Crown Castle owns over 40,000 communication structures in the United States. So they're going to play a prominent role in dictating terms of UAS operations at towers around the country because they own a lot of them. Then we have two UAS service providers who've been very instrumental working with our committee, Greg Emmerich from Centera and Chris Mosia from Measure. So we're really going to, I think, impress upon folks that it's much more than inspection, and these use cases are expanding rapidly. And with the work that is going on in our industry over the the next 5 to 10 years. Here's how this technology is going to play a valuable role in making this work more efficient, keeping our workforce safe, and really allowing us to enjoy the conveniences that come from wireless everywhere in modern day connectivity. So it's going to be a fun panel. I really enjoy visiting with the attendees there because they're so innovative. They're very much entrepreneurial focused, and it'll be a great opportunity to really educate the attendees and have conversations with those there that our industry really is tailor-made for this technology.
In addition to doing inspections, what other uses can drones provide in the cell tower industry?
There's a lot of them. Let me give you a few examples, Randy. So, environmental species. There's a lot of nesting that goes on communication towers, and you do not mess with that because there are civil and sometimes criminal penalties when it comes to environmental species protection. And that would be a great example of what you could cover. Bid walks. So a typical job, if you were bidding for a Verizon network build out in Florida, Central Florida, and typically what would happen is the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 contractor companies would bid on it, and they'd bring everyone to that tower site or sites for a bid walk so they could assess the site, the scope of work, and then the contractors would put their bid in, and one of them would be rewarded with the contract. Well, we're hearing use cases now, Randy, where drones, the coverage with video is so sophisticated now and so good that you can actually send a drone out there, and it's replacing the need to convene everybody for the bid walk. Well, think about that from an efficiency perspective. And, so that would be an example. AT&T and Verizon Wireless are experimenting, and, they're going to get there soon. I mean, they're using drones as LTE hotspots, whether it be in natural disaster or catastrophic situations or with large crowds, concerts, festivals. These tethered drones are actually a roving mini cell tower, so to speak. So, that would be an example. There's a lot of work going on, with public safety and natural disaster and catastrophe response. And so those would be some of the areas we'll dive into at Interdrone.
Sounds like a really diverse panel. It should be interesting. What type of person would be most interested, you think, in attending that session?
Anyone who relies on technology and wireless to communicate, I think would be interested because, we're going to connect the dots in a lot of areas. But I think anyone who's interested in seeing how an industry is rapidly expanding the use cases, number one, and is how this technology is literally going to save lives. I think you hear a lot of benefits being touted for drones, but we have the data, we have the statistics, and we know that this technology will keep our workers safe. And I think it would be interesting for those who want more validation of that. This is a valuable tool for workers.
I think you really hit on a key point, Todd, and that's the safety aspect of using drones. Now, as we close, do you have any final thoughts on drones in the tower industry that you'd like to share?
I think you did a great job of capturing everything, Randy. We're going to continue to work hard, both at the legislative and regulatory level and within our industry to educate our workers. One thing that's going to take some time is, we envision a day where most contractor companies, there's going to be someone on that crew who has their 107 license, and that company will have a small UAS that they can operate. So it remains to be seen in our industry anyway, due to the multi-layered chain, so to speak, is what will the customer, or in this case, the carrier or tower owner, what will they let the 107 licensed operator do, and what will they save for the service provider companies to do? How are they going to define that? What will the scope be? But we're not there yet in our industry. A lot of the companies are still working through, if Randy's tower contractor company rolls up at a site in Tampa, Florida, what will they let your foreman do who has his 107 certification, as opposed to what UAS services, they would contract out to a service provider company. So those things are still kind of being vetted. 107 is still, relatively new. And so it's going to take time to penetrate the workforce and the companies to get up to speed. And that's where we're trying to play a role, educate them on the regulatory environment, how to operate them, get certified, get someone on your crews, a leader on one of your 4-person crews to be licensed so that you have that ability to use that drone. So those are the things that are kind of a fluid situation, and they'll continue to improve as we get farther down the road from the 107 that came out last year.
That's it for episode 119 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Todd Schlekeway of the National Association of Tower Erectors. And I want to thank Todd for taking the time to speak with me and talking about drones and the tower industry. If you want to learn more about Nate or want to connect with Todd, check out the webpage at natehome.com. And remember, you can meet Todd in person at Interdrone 2017 on September 6th through the 8th. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the costs of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.